It started with a knock at the door and a demand no homeowner ever expects. A black man stood on his own driveway, confused but calm, while two strangers in cheap uniforms declared they had the authority to detain him. His neighbors gathered, phones recording every second. What they didn't know, what no one expected, was that this man wasn't just another target. He was something far more dangerous. To them. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon in a Texas neighborhood. Marcus Johnson, a respected man in his late 40s, had lived there for years. To most, he was just another homeowner, calm, polite, always, waving at neighbors as he watered his lawn or checked his mail. But beneath that everyday exterior was a life marked by discipline, courage, and experiences he rarely shared. On this day, Marcus was doing something ordinary, cleaning out his garage, sorting tools, enjoying the peace of a weekend. Kids rode, their bikes passed, dogs barked in the distance, and nothing felt unusual. Yet, for black men in America, even the simplest moments can carry an unseen weight. Marcus knew that, though he carried himself with quiet dignity, eyes sometimes lingered on him longer than on others. Whispers sometimes followed. He brushed it off, but he noticed. As the sun began to set, a car slowed near his driveway. At first, Marcus didn't think much of it. Cars pass all the time. But this one didn't keep going. 3 men stepped out. Matching shirts, clipboards, an air of authority. They weren't police, but they acted like it. And in seconds, Marcus's peaceful afternoon was about to unravel into something far more dangerous than anyone on that street could imagine. Marcus straightened up, wiping sweat from his brow, when he noticed the men moving closer. Their steps were too deliberate, their eyes locked on him. One of them spoke sharply. "Sir, we've had complaints. You need to come with us." Marcus blinked in disbelief. Come with them? Who were they? Their shirts read, "Community Enforcement." Words that meant nothing in law, but carried the posture of power. They flashed plastic badges that looked official enough to fool a bystander. But Marcus knew better. He had seen countless fakes in his lifetime. Neighbors began peeking out from porches, phones in hand. To them, it looked like a black man being confronted by some kind of authority. And that was the danger. Perception. One wrong move, one raised voice, and the story could be twisted against him. Marcus asked calmly, "Under what authority?" But his calmness only seemed to provoke them. The tallest man stepped closer, puffing out his chest. "We don't need to explain. You're resisting already. Step aside, or we'll detain you." Detain him? In his own driveway? The audacity burned in Marcus's chest. Yet he knew the game. These men weren't here for law. They were here for intimidation. And intimidation, when pointed at a black man, was often enough to spark chaos. The crowd thickened. Someone whispered, "What did he do?" Another muttered, "They're taking him in." Every second, Marcus stayed silent. The narrative slipped further from truth to assumption. He could feel the weight of history pressing down. The countless others who had been judged guilty by nothing more than skin. Then one of the impostors reached for Marcus's arm. That was the breaking point. Marcus stepped back, his voice steady but firm. "Don't touch me." The words cut through the air, sharper than a blade. For a split second, everything froze. The men hesitated, but not for long. They doubled down, raising their voices, demanding compliance. Their performance grew louder, designed not for Marcus, but for the audience around them, an audience already primed to believe authority over truth. Inside, Marcus's mind raced. He could reveal who he really was. He could shut this down with a single flash of his badge. But to do that meant exposure, meant losing the anonymity he had fought to protect. Was it worth it now? The tallest man leaned in again, whispering, just low enough that only Marcus could hear. "You don't belong here. People like you never do." It wasn't about neighborhood rules. It wasn't about community standards. It was racism, raw and unmasked, dressed up in fake uniforms. And for the first time, Marcus felt his patience slipping. The crowd shifted closer. Cameras zoomed in. A line had been crossed, and everyone could feel it. The next move, whether his or theirs, would decide everything. The fake officers closed in, their voices sharp, their presence suffocating. One of them shoved Marcus back against his own car, pressing hard enough to bruise. The crowd gasped, and phones lifted higher, recording every second. To them, it looked like a black man resisting. Arrest. To Marcus, it was a dangerous script being written in real time, one that too many had never survived. The tallest man sneered, spitting the words like venom. This is what happens when you people don't know your place. Something snapped inside Marcus. Years of discipline kept him calm, but in this moment he realized silence could cost him everything, not just his dignity, but his life. As the man reached for cuffs, Marcus moved with precision. His hand slid into his jacket, pulling out the real badge, heavy, unmistakable, gleaming under the streetlight. He held it high for everyone to see. The crowd gasped again, but this time in disbelief. FBI. The imposters froze. The air shifted. Instantly, tension crackling like electricity. Marcus's voice cut through the chaos, commanding and unshakable. You're under arrest for impersonating federal officers. The neighborhood fell silent. No one moved. For a long, burning second, the fake cops looked like predators caught in their own trap, faces pale, bravado gone. Marcus stepped forward, his presence towering over them now. Every ounce of fear had turned into fire, every moment of injustice flipped on its head. This wasn't just a man standing up for himself. This was the most feared FBI agent in the state, turning the spotlight on the very hatred that tried to break him. And in that moment, the question wasn't whether Marcus would survive. It was whether these men would ever escape the truth that had just been exposed. The fake officers were silent now, their arrogance replaced with fear as real police cars pulled into the neighborhood. Within minutes, they were in handcuffs. The same fate they had tried to force on Marcus. But this time, the cameras weren't capturing a black man being dragged away. They were capturing justice being flipped back on its oppressors. Marcus stood, tall, his badge still in hand, his voice calm but commanding as he gave his statement. Yet deep inside, the weight of the night pressed heavy, because he knew the truth. If not for that badge, for that title, the story could have ended very differently. The neighbors whispered, shocked. Some apologized for watching in silence, while others admitted they had assumed Marcus must have done something wrong. That assumption, that dangerous silent prejudice, was the very root of the night's violence. Marcus went home, but he did not rest. He knew this wasn't about him alone. It was about every man and woman who had been harassed, humiliated, or killed without ever having a badge to shield them. It was about a system that still allowed hatred to dress itself in authority, and so the question remained, not for Marcus, but for all of us. How many more stories like this will unfold before we truly confront the sickness of racism? This wasn't just one night in one neighborhood. It was a mirror held up to society. And what it reflected should force us all to ask, when will silence end and action begin?